A lawsuit filed in Will County yesterday says that some people want to register their banned firearms, but they can't, and an action being sought to allow for individuals to register firearms. What's going on here? Well, to talk more about it, we're joined now by Richard Pearson. He is the executive director of the Illinois State Rifle Association, to break down what's going on with this state-level lawsuit brought by somebody in Will County. Richard, thanks for taking time with us this morning. Let's go ahead and pull you up here and get you on so that we can have a conversation about what is happening. So break it down for us. What do we got going on here with this Will County lawsuit?
Well, as you know, the Southern District enjoined the state from enforcing the PICA between the 28th of April, starting on the 28th of April, and then the 7th Circuit overruled it on the 4th of May. So those people in that time period, from the 28th to the 4th of May, were able to purchase firearms, accoutrements, so forth and so on, that fit underneath the ban. But the state has now ruled that they can't register those because they weren't purchased before January 10th. So this lawsuit tries to get relief for those individuals because they're out there. They can't register their firearms. They're technically illegal on the 1st of January, and so the only choice is to sell them or move out of state. Well, we believe that's unconstitutional, and we've asked the 12th Circuit to rule on this and give us a judgment.
So let's go back to, when this was first enacted, January 10th of this year, 2023. It was in the previous General Assembly during the lame duck and passed in just a matter of days. But then you had the challenges pour in, including challenges from the Illinois State Rifle Association that were looking at trying to block the law on a preliminary basis. So it wasn't even on the merits of that. And I do want to talk about what the status of different lawsuits that are going on here. But you had Southern District of Illinois Judge Stephen McGlynn hear the challenge of consolidated cases and issue that preliminary injunction blocking enforcement of that. And Richard, we reported on that, of course, and even talked to several gun stores across the state that said that they had some of the largest quantities of sales that they had seen in recent memory during that 6-day window, what the Second Amendment community called Freedom Week. How many of those types of sales do you think that there were here in the state of Illinois that could be impacted by this particular action?
Well, the answer is I don't know, but there were lots of them. I know that the firearm stores actually sold out their inventories in many cases to people who wanted to buy an AR-15, particularly. But there was a whole bunch of other firearms, 170 of them on the ban list. And if they had one of those and people were interested, they were sold during that week. Then suddenly, even if they want to register them, of course, they were not allowed to register them. So that's where we are with this lawsuit this morning.
So what are we looking at here for, the January 1st deadline that's just around the corner here? Are you looking for some kind of emergency relief granted today, tomorrow? Listen, Sunday's New Year's Eve, right?
Well, I agree. I think if the court rules, I hope it happens by that time, but the courts have their own timeline. I have been in many lawsuits, and I have learned that what the judge does, he does when they want to do it, not when I want to do it. But so I would like to see something before the 1st of January, but it wouldn't be surprising if it went beyond that.
We're talking with Richard Pearson. He is the executive director of the Illinois State Rifle Association here with Bishop on Air, getting the latest in litigation against the state's gun and magazine ban and registry, which so far no lawsuits have succeeded in blocking that January 1st deadline. And here we are just days away from that. Richard, if this does come after the January 1st deadline, what kind of jeopardy does that put these firearms owners wanting to register their firearms? What kind of jeopardy are they going to be put in?
Well, they could be possibly arrested for a misdemeanor, and then the next day some enterprising police department could arrest them again, and then it would be a felony. We'd hope that wouldn't happen since all this is in litigation. As you know, our suit and the NSSF suit are combined before the Seventh Circuit, or were combined before the Seventh Circuit. They turned it down, and now we are going to apply for a writ of certiorari to take it to the United States Supreme Court.
When do you anticipate that happening? Of course, we've seen a couple of attempts go up, at least on preliminary bases, trying to get some kind of injunction from the U.S. Supreme Court. This writ that you guys are looking at, will this be, based off the merits?
The answer is our suit and the NSF suit is based on Second Amendment grounds, and so it would wipe out the entire law if we win.
So we'll be watching that closely, of course, as we look at other lawsuits, including, the question on the Fifth Amendment arguments that Judge Stephen McGlynn down in the Southern District has set a January 4th status hearing on that case. So there's still going to be a lot of action playing out here. Richard, if you could react to the registration numbers we've seen so far. They did double this most recent number compared to the prior week, but it's still, 0.63% of FOID card holders that have registered firearms.
Exactly. People are going to register their firearms. They don't trust the government. They know, as happened in Connecticut, they had a similar law 2 years ago, and now the government is calling for confiscation of those firearms because now they know who has them and where they are. And not only that, people paid the government to have their guns confiscated, because it costs a $25 registration fee. So you're paying the government to spy on you, and people don't like that. And the number of gun owners in this country has never been higher. People are rebelling against this, and so I look forward to the Supreme Court overruling the Pike Act.
If you could try to, I guess, square up what we're seeing here, the challenges saying that people don't want to register, but you've got a challenge that says people do want to register. How do you square that circle, so to speak, or circle that square?
Well, first of all, it's an individual decision, and so if you should not pass a law in any state or any jurisdiction that makes it impossible for people to own legal things like firearms or anything else. If they can do it with firearms, they can do it with cars, they can do it with anything. So that should be the individual's choice. The government should, if they have the registration scheme, if people want to comply with it, they should be able to comply with it, but they should not be forced to move their property out of state just because they own a firearm or anything else.
Richard Pearson, Executive Director of the Illinois State Rifle Association. So we've got a myriad lawsuits that are in various places, from state court to federal court in different jurisdictions, and the district court and the appeals court, and possibly even more action at the U.S. Supreme Court. So obviously all that's taking place here with the January 1st deadline rapidly approaching. But the rules, the Illinois State Police emergency rules, those have not been updated since September 15th. And we're not going to get an update on those rules until, January 16th at the earliest from the Joint Committee on Administrative Rules. So I guess talk about that confusion there, where you've got a lot of things in that second notice that did address some of the questions, but those second notice rules are not in effect right now, and they won't be until 2-3 weeks after the January 1st deadline.
That's correct. The second notice rules are not in effect, which relieves some of this in certain ways. But right now, as of the 1st of January, those rules don't apply. And there's no guarantee that those rules will apply on the 16th of January either. JCAR could reject those rules. JCAR could extend the time on those rules. JCAR could decide they don't want to talk about those rules. So the gun owners in this state are really nowhere because of the laws that the state legislatures passed and the governor signed.
Could JCAR also suspend the rules? And what would that do?
Well, that would add to the quagmire, I'm sure. But because when you pass a law, particularly like this law, rulemaking authority goes to some group. In this case, of course, the state police. Those rules have to be in place for the law to become part of the law. And so for you to do enforcement law, those rules have to be in place. Otherwise, you enforce it as it is on its face. And it's a confusing mess. It's, as I described it in my newsletter, it's a quagmire. There's no way out for a law-abiding gun owner that is reasonable.
Talking with Richard Pearson, Illinois State Rifle Association. You guys shared some of the video of the governor, 2 weeks ago now, when he was asked about the confusion with the rules still not finalized and people still having significant questions on what's required to register and just a whole bunch of conflict there. The governor said he thinks there's widespread understanding of what needs to happen, and then he proceeded to talk about registering automatic firearms, high-speed, high-capacity magazines. Your reaction to the governor's comments on that day?
Well, the governor, isn't out here with the people. I live in the world of the people, the ordinary gun owner, the law-abiding citizen, and so they don't feel that way at all. The registration numbers, 63% of 1% is horribly small, and people are resisting this, and they're not going to do it. There's also people who call this office every day that don't understand. I mean, every day, I should say every minute of every day, that don't understand the rules. And we do our best to explain them as we see them, but we can't explain the rules either because they're not clear and they're not codified yet. So the governor is wrong about that. The other thing is that these are semi-automatic firearms, not fully automatic firearms, as the governor described, which have been covered by the National Firearms Act of 1934 and have been illegal since then. So it has nothing to do with that. So it's a complete, it's a misstatement.
Richard, to wrap up here, I guess let's just revisit what we started with and recap what the lawsuits filed in state court in Will County, what you're looking to ultimately have happen here.
Well, we want the people who are caught in this no man's land between the 28th of April and the 4th of May to have an opportunity to register firearms if they want to. Otherwise, they have to move them out of state, sell them, or do something with them, or simply not register and resist. But they should have that choice. And so we want to give the citizens of the state of Illinois the choices that they want to have. So we're not trying to force them to register, but they should have that opportunity if they want to.
That lawsuit aside, you've got those other challenges. How important is it that the merits of this get dealt with in the courts in a judicious fashion?
Well, the merits of the case are we have to get a ruling on this, and the sooner the better. In Illinois, we have 2,415,561 known void card holders, and they're out there in limbo. You have a quarter of the adult population in this state that is in limbo, and their families are in limbo too. So by the time you get done with all the state, particularly outside of Chicago, that are in a quandary about this, and so the courts have to step in. They should step in quickly and decide this.
Richard Pearson, Illinois State Rifle Association Executive Director, greatly appreciate you taking the time with us today. We'll definitely be watching closely what happens with the Will County case, but also what kind of filings are going to be made to the U.S. Supreme Court and other jurisdictions as well. So we'll definitely be hearing from you in the near future, all right? Happy holidays and Happy New Year to you, okay?
Yes, and to you and everyone else out there. Thank you.
Appreciate your time.